Imagine you own an airline. Your planes are flying thousands of passengers every day from one city to another. Hundreds of tickets are being sold on every flight, generating millions of dollars in revenue. Sounds like an amazing business, right? But here's the interesting question. If airlines can make so much money, why do so many of them struggle to stay profitable? The airline business is actually one of the most difficult businesses in the world. Why? Because while airline revenue can be huge, the expenses can be unbelievably huge too. Today, we're going to break down how airlines actually make money, where that money goes, what the economics of a single flight look like, and why owning an airline can be such a risky business. First, let's understand how the airline business works. Basically, an airline sells a service, a seat plus transportation. You book a seat on an airline and the airline takes you from one location to another. But airlines don't make money from tickets alone. They have multiple sources of revenue. The most obvious one is passenger tickets. Then there are baggage fees. Passengers pay extra when they bring additional luggage. Airlines can also make money from food and beverages, seat selection, priority boarding, cancellation fees, and other add-on services. And airlines can generate revenue from cargo as well. So an airline isn't simply making money from selling you a ticket. Its goal is to turn every available seat and every available kilogram of cargo into as much revenue as possible. But this is where the real challenge begins. A commercial aircraft is not cheap. A modern passenger aircraft can cost tens of millions of dollars, depending on the aircraft type and the deal. But an airline doesn't necessarily have to purchase every aircraft outright. Airlines can also lease aircraft. In simple terms, the plane isn't owned by the airline, but the airline pays a regular lease payment to operate it. And even after buying an aircraft, the expenses don't stop. The aircraft has to be maintained. Regular inspections, replacement parts, engine maintenance, and safety checks can all be extremely expensive. And when an aircraft is sitting on the ground, it's not generating revenue for the airline. That's one of the strange realities of the airline business. When the plane is in the air, it can make money. When it's sitting on the ground, it can still cost money. That's why airlines take aircraft utilization extremely seriously. Now let's talk about one of the airline industry's most important expenses: jet fuel. Aircraft need enormous amounts of fuel to fly thousands of miles. And the problem is that fuel prices can fluctuate significantly. If fuel prices suddenly rise, an airline's cost structure can come under serious pressure. Imagine an airline set its ticket prices months in advance, but later fuel becomes more expensive. The passenger is still paying the same ticket price, but the cost of operating the flight has increased. That means the airline's profit margin gets squeezed. That's why airlines care so much about fuel efficiency. Newer aircraft can generally offer better fuel efficiency, which can improve an airline's economics over the long term. But buying or leasing a new aircraft requires a huge investment in the first place. Now think about all the people who keep an aircraft operating: pilots, flight attendants, engineers, ground staff, customer support teams, operations teams, security and administrative staff. An airline has to manage a massive workforce, and then there are airport costs. Airlines may have to pay landing and parking fees at airports. There are terminal-related costs, ground handling costs, navigation and other operational charges. And at major airports, there's another important issue: slots. Airlines can't simply operate unlimited flights whenever they want. At busy airports, flight slots during peak hours can be extremely valuable. So for an airline, simply owning a plane isn't enough. The airline needs to operate that aircraft at the right airport at the right time and on the right route. You may have noticed this before. The same flight might cost $40 one day, and a few days later that exact flight could cost $100 or even $200. Why? Because airlines use dynamic pricing. Airlines constantly monitor demand. How many seats have already been sold? How close is the departure date? How strong is demand for the route? What are competitors charging? Is it peak travel season or the off-season? Ticket prices can change based on all of these factors. Imagine a flight with 200 seats. At the beginning, the airline might sell some seats at relatively low prices. As the flight fills up, the price of the remaining seats may increase, but if demand is weak, the airline may offer discounts or promotional fares. The goal is simple: fill the aircraft while generating as much revenue as possible.
Now, there's an important distinction we need to understand. Revenue and profit are not the same thing. Imagine an airline generates $200,000 in revenue from a single flight. That sounds like a huge amount of money. But then comes the list of expenses: fuel, crew costs, airport charges, aircraft lease or financing costs, maintenance, insurance, technology systems, sales and marketing, administrative expenses, taxes and other costs. Whatever money remains, after all of those expenses, that's the profit. And historically, airline profit margins have been challenging. That means an airline can generate enormous amounts of revenue and still end up with a relatively small profit. And if demand suddenly falls, fuel prices increase, an aircraft is grounded, or an unexpected disruption occurs, that profit can disappear very quickly. So the next time you see an aircraft taking off at an airport, remember, it's not just an airplane. Behind that aircraft is a massive economic machine. Thousands of employees, aircraft worth millions of dollars, fuel, maintenance, airport infrastructure, ticket pricing algorithms, cargo, and most importantly, hundreds of seats that need to be efficiently monetized on every flight. The biggest lesson of the airline business is this: having high revenue and being profitable are two completely different things. An airline isn't just responsible for moving passengers from one place to another. It has to efficiently manage every flight, every seat, every route, and every dollar. And that's exactly why the airline business is one of the most fascinating, capital-intensive, and challenging businesses in the world. If you enjoy real-world breakdowns of business and economics, make sure to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.